Well, good morning, everybody. Man, it is so good seeing you in the house of God. We're week 2 of our series on Exodus. Last week, we talked about the introduction of this character, this person named Moses. And Moses is a very complicated individual. As we learn, I hope you guys are learning this as we read the Bible, as we've been going through the book of Genesis and now Exodus, and as we continue the rest of what is called the Torah or the Pentateuch, that you realize that these are very real, complicated people. They've done things that are really off the mark, and then they do things that are totally on point. And I love that the Bible, I've said this before, doesn't shy away from the fact that these very real people who followed God do miss the mark, and we see that almost more than we see them totally getting it right. And Moses in particular, he's this very reluctant leader. He doesn't want to do what he is doing, but he feels like he is supposed to do it. I love that. I think that we need more leaders who are humble in themselves, that they go, if someone else was doing this, I would just follow that, but no one else is. So I'm going to go do that. If there's something in your life, if there's a problem in the world that you see and you don't see anyone else solving that problem, guess who needs to solve it? You. And now what's really great about Moses whenever he gets this initial calling, and we talked a little bit about this last week, is that there seems to be a time frame on which Moses is responsible for these people. And I think that's a little bit of why he said yes. And like signing like a loan, for your car or for a house, even though you may not finish that loan on that particular vehicle, you know that there's a 6-year, a 12-year, a whatever year contract that's on this. By the end of this, you'll know you have completed the task at hand. And Moses, whenever he's called by God at the burning bush, God says, hey, I'm calling you here at this mountain called Horeb, which is also known as Mount Sinai, and then I'm going to actually have you come back to this mountain. And that's how you'll know that I am God, and you're actually going to bring my entire people with you to this spot. So last week we talked about Moses coming and saying, hey, we need to get these people out of here, and how he was reclaiming that moment for these people is that he had to get rid of Egypt inside of the hearts of God's people. Before they could ever leave, he needed to kill the habits and behaviors that they have grown accustomed to and built their lives around. And so he completely obliterates and demolishes the Egyptian economy and everything that's around it. It's crazy story that you start seeing. And we get to this point in Exodus 12:31. I'm going to put it on the big Bible up here. It says, Pharaoh sent for Moses and Aaron during the night. Get out, he ordered. Leave my people and take the rest of the Israelites with you. Go and worship the Lord as you have requested. Take your flocks and herds as you said, and be gone. Go, but bless me as you leave. Basically, tell your God to stop this. All the Egyptians urged the people of Israel to get out of the land as quickly as possible, for they thought, we will all die. This is a crazy moment that we're experiencing, where God has brought so much aggression against the people that the people are saying, all right, you want, get out. I don't need you anymore in this place. So Pharaoh relents and he asks for God to do something more. So you're an Israelite now. It's been a crazy couple weeks. This Egyptian murderer comes out of the desert, says that God appeared to him as a burning bush. And you're like, which God? And he goes, the God of the ancestors that you used to know but don't follow. And he told me that you guys are going to leave. And they go, okay, prove it. And then God proves it. And then suddenly the Pharaoh, your master, the guy just says leave. And so you're leaving and you're like, hey, we heard about this. We're going to be free now. Moses, it's crazy. Now what? Now what do we do? So I'm going to preach from this topic. I believe that a lot of us face this. It's been journey of your faith life that you started something and you started going to church and you did the work that says, all right, I'm going to step out of the problem that I'm facing in life, but now what? Now what do we do? What is this? What direction do I go in? What things do I do? I'm going to title today's message, I'm Needy. On the day of my high school graduation, we did a little after party, and so we had a pastor that of the church that we worked for, and the dude made the best brisket ever. Like it, I mean, the best. Like, and I'm talking like he grew up in the South, like he grew up in Alabama. Like this dude, he knows how to smoke meat. Like it was delicious. And so we had brisket, and we had those like Hawaiian sweet roll, like for the bread and all that stuff. Like, guys, this was just a fire meal. I remember that more than I remember my own graduation, because I had like 300 people in my graduating class, and my last name's Wallace. So I was just sitting there, like, all right, can we get through? And then like we had to get all through like the Smiths, like just a bunch of white people named Smith, like, and that's where I went to high school. And so we get to this finally this post high school graduation party. We did it really early, so we were done by like 4 o'clock. And there was like a few other graduation parties that I could go to. So I went up and drove to those, said hi, congratulations, gave hugs, and all of that good stuff. And then like the next day, so that was on a Saturday. The next day I went to church like I normally do because I'm a good person, and because that's the standard of a good person, right? And then the next day was Monday, and on any other school year, it would have been the beginning of summer break. Like I would get to wake up and like watch TV and play video games and all the fun stuff with that. But this time I woke up and I was just an adult. Like I was just living life like I would have to like now. And but this was, I don't know if you guys remember this moment, but I had this like dawn on me moment of like, oh, this is the rest of my life. Like this is it. Like I got to wake up and now I got to figure out what to do. Summer break was over, and I suddenly became the sole decider of everything that I needed to do. What a ridiculous and intimidating thing to hand to an 18-year-old. Like they gave me a car at 16 and then gave me freedom at 18. Like I can't even rent a car for the next like 3 years after that. Like this is not good. Here's what I found is I didn't understand what I wanted. Like all through high school, I had all these landmarks of freedom. And so like when I was like a freshman in high school, it was like when I get a car, when I get my driver's license, I'm going to be able to now go wherever I want, do whatever I want. Then I will be free. Whenever I graduate high school, finally I'm going to be free. Jared, whenever I finally get the job that I'm supposed to be in, finally I'm going to be free. Okay, now that I'm in the job, I'm out of like I'm 18, so I'm at a starting position. If I can get to like the high up career, then I can get the money that I want to be free. Well, now that I got all the money, now I got to find somebody I want to do life with for the rest. Okay, when I get married, then I can have guilt-free sex and I'll be free. It'll be great. And then when I'm married, well, now when I get a kid, I'm not fully satisfied in the marriage. I haven't replicated myself yet. When I get a kid, I'll be free. And then you have the kid and you're like, when I get past the terrible twos, I'll be free. And I'm still in the phase where I'm now looking at my awesome kids, but my crazy kids, I'm going, oh, when they're teenagers and they can drive, then Natalie and I can go on date nights, and then Bailey could babysit and all this stuff, and I'll be free. And I know it's a lie, but I still believe it deep in my heart. We have all these landmarks, and it always feels like the landmark keeps getting pushed out because we reach this new level of something, and then we realize that new level came with a new devil. And so just like Israel, they had groaned and said and needed to be free, but now they find themselves free. And now what? And here's what we're finding is that you are free from where you were, but now lost on where to go. I've hit this point so many times. It's annoying. And the problem is that you can learn the lesson of getting to that point faster, and you can get to that point of recognition faster, but you're still going to face the point of when you reach that landmark, now what? Last week we talked about exit signs, and when God offers a path of freedom, will you get off on that exit sign and move there? Well, here's the thing. The exit sign was just one step on the direction to get to your destination. You still have a couple more left turns. You still have a couple more exits to take. Yeah, you got freedom from your addiction, but now you still have to deal with your friends. You got freedom from your childhood in relationship to your parents, but now your brothers and sisters still have to go on that journey, and you have to lead them. This is the new freedom, is now I got to pick where I'm going. Here's the mess part, is you are the most vulnerable in this beginning spot, because in this moment you could be 1 foot in one place and 1 foot in the other. Here in Omaha, Nebraska, we have this really cool bridge that you could have 1 foot in Omaha, 1 foot in Nebraska, and you can have 1 foot in Iowa at the exact same time. And I've seen so many, especially when they built the bridge. I saw so many Instagram photos. Oh, no one ever told me I could be in two places at the same time. You're in two places at the same time right now. Your body's one place, but your mind is in a completely different place. Man, if I could say you could be in three places at the same time, your spirit's in a completely different place too. And we are vulnerable at this because our fallback to our old ways, back into captivity, in our most vulnerable spot. God knows this. We know He knows our tendency to look back at what was. We see this in the Israelites, Exodus 13, again, putting up on the big Bible here. When Pharaoh finally let the people go, God did not lead them along the main road that runs through the Philistine territory, even though it was the shortest route to the promised land. God said, if the people are faced with a battle, they might change their minds and go back. So God led them in a roundabout way through the wilderness toward the Red Sea. Thus, the Israelites left Egypt like an army ready for battle. And this is really key. This is the first thing I want you guys to catch here today, is that the path toward freedom is not the shortest path. If you go through the shortest path, you know who's on the shortest path? All the people who are going to try to attack you. You get to, you're like, I'm making the right decision, but then very quickly, you don't make any other correct decisions after that. And so, like I said, you break through, you went to a church service, you had some private prayer time, God broke through your addiction, but then you just went and hung out at the bar still. That was the shortest path. You didn't have to try to get new friends. You didn't have to try to adapt your behavior. And you just took the shortest path. And we wonder why we find ourselves in the same cycles. And it's because you change an aspect of your life, but you never change the path you were following. It's like driving a different car, but you're still driving on dangerous roads. Here's the thing. We've equated God's path. That's what he's calling the Israelites to do. Go on my path. We've equated that to difficult. And when we read here and it says that God took them on a roundabout path into the wilderness, our immediate assumption is, oh, God made them go on a difficult path. The Bible doesn't say that. And often we've equated the Christian path as the more difficult path. Oh, I'm going to have to pray. I'm going to have to read the Bible. I'm going to have to give. I'm going to have to serve. That's going to be difficult. You know what's difficult? Dealing with the same problems over and over again and nothing changing. God didn't take him on a difficult path. He took him on a roundabout path. Well, we need to realize that the wilderness is not dangerous. It's just uncharted. What was difficult about the wilderness, the reason why people would often just follow and why the Philistines attacked people is because everyone already knew that road. It was easy to follow the road that everybody traveled on. But to go the way that God wants you to go would require you to go on a path that many of your friends and family have never traveled before. You see, it is hard following God, but only if you're not being led by him. Only if you're not allowing him to speak into your life. You may not have healthy examples of what a marriage looked like, but you do have God. You may not have an example of what it looks like to build a business, to find that purpose, you may not have an example of what it is to have a strong financial structure in your life, to budget, to do finances, but you do have God. You do have a path in order to figure this way out. God is with you. I like that God takes him on this roundabout path. He doesn't just point at the direction. He says, hey, I'm going to be with you and help you travel in this. Let's keep reading in chapter 13 and verse 21. It says, the Lord went ahead of them. He guided them during the day with a pillar of cloud, and he provided light at night with a pillar of fire. That word pillar right there, sometimes you could read this and go, what is it? The Hebrew translation of this is pillar. There's not a fancier, it wasn't like, oh, was it? There was a pillar of cloud. What does that look like? Picture a pillar, then make it a cloud. This allowed them to travel by day or by night, and the Lord did not remove the pillar of cloud or pillar of fire from its place in front of the people. God is not whipping you forward. He is a leader. So he is out ahead of you, guiding you. Hey, come with me. I got a promised land. In your dark times, I'm the light. In your good times, I'm the hope of a cloud, right? Daydreaming, looking at clouds, figuring out what they look like. I'm your promise that's ahead of you. This is what God is doing. And he's saying, I am so out in front of you that I don't want you to look back. I'm going to put something amazing out in front of you so that you don't look back at what was hurting you and long for it. And this is a really cool sign of God, is he didn't just like put a cloud and then it's not that they saw a star and they somehow assumed, like we would know now, that stars are giant fireballs. And so they just followed a star and then they followed a cloud and that was the hope and they found themselves in the Red Sea. It says a pillar, something they only could define by the thing they've seen before, was out in front of them, leading them, telling them, don't look back. But we have a look back moment for the Israelites, often like we do. Exodus 14 in verse 10, as Pharaoh approached, he goes, why did we just give away all of our slaves for free? I'm going to take them back. And as Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord and they said to Moses, why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you this would happen while we are still in Egypt? We said, leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptians. It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness. This is really dramatic. I don't know, maybe I'm dramatic. I feel like I've had this prayer time. I feel like I've been in this. I feel like I've been in this point in marriage. I feel like I've been in this point. Man, I've been in this point this week as a parent. Like, oh, these kids are such a blessing. God, why did you give me this child? It was better when I was single. Was it? Was it? I don't want you to look down on them. I really don't, because we all do this. We all face this type of stuff. Here's what God does is he goes, I'm leading you with this really powerful thing. I'm going to use the thing that I'm leading you towards as the thing that also defends you. So the Egyptians, it says that they're in 600 chariots. Pharaoh gets his best of his best warriors, in a chariot that would kill 25 to 50 people on a battlefield, just one of them. And Pharaoh brings 600 of them and chases the Israelites. So their panic is valid because they're blocked by a sea now and don't have a way out. They're cornered. God, why did you lead me to this place? I have no way out. So what God does is he takes the cloud and the pillar of fire at the same time, sends them to the back of the Israelites, and starts attacking the Egyptians with it. This is wild. Like, I want you guys to read this, but I'm paraphrasing in this. At the same time, God calls to Moses, hey, I'm going to make a path. And Moses is like, okay. And he goes, what I want you to do is take the staff, put it in the water, and I'm just going to make a path. And look like anything. God could have made like Indiana Jones style, like invisible path that they walk over, or make them walk on water. God does something way more powerful, is he defies the laws of gravity and physics and splits a sea open. He lets the water recede away from itself and allows them to walk on what it calls dry land. This is why they're not walking through mud. They're not trudging through. No one lost a sandal. No one tripped. No one fell over. They walked on dry land. God not only split the sea, but he looked at the dirt and made it dry. So you would be like, this is flipping amazing. And that's what the Israelites do. Exodus 14, it ends chapter 4 this way. When the people of Israel saw the mighty power of the Lord had unleashed against the Egyptians, they were filled with awe before him, as they should. And they put their faith in the Lord and in his servant Moses. And that's the end. Let's pray. Oh, that's not the end. I mean, you guys knew it wasn't the end. I mean, because you might have heard the story of Moses before, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper. You know it's not the end because that's not the end of how your story's been going. Yeah, God's done something amazing in your life. Here, let's go the easiest route. He gave you a church family here today. What an amazing, powerful thing that in your life previously you didn't have a community, but now you have one. Maybe you've had a community similar to this in the past, but now you found this one. What a miracle. What a powerful thing. As someone who's been in a lot of churches in my life, that we get to be here together and do this type of thing. It must be easy from this point, right? It says right here that they were in awe and they put their faith in him. So from here, they just have to walk a couple miles, walk into the promised land, set up a couple camps, and everything's good. No problems, no conflict for the nation of Israel from now on. And that's funny because of the irony of today, that Israel's still in conflict. That life is still filled with conflict. All of this stuff, the reality is so much more difficult to face in this, because 3 days later, God sends essentially a tornado of wind and fire and crashes a sea on 600 Egyptians, and they're in awe. And 3 days later, this happens. Chapter 15. Then Moses led the people of Israel away from the Red Sea, and they moved into the desert of Shur. They traveled in this desert for 3 days without finding any water. When they came to an oasis of Mar, the water was too bitter to drink, so they called the place Mar. Then the people complained and turned against Moses. What are we going to drink? They demanded. So Moses cried out to the Lord for help. The Lord showed him a piece of wood. Moses threw it into the water, and this made the water good to drink. A wild miracle. What's crazier is that they trust God to split seas and see that, but the moment they become thirsty, they abandon him. Where does your faith go? He's doing this amazing thing. I got this freedom. I'm doing it. What now? Why is it still difficult? I'm now, even whenever I find something that's good, it's bitter. I complain too. I, I get thirsty, especially in deserts. I lived in Utah for a while, and so you travel in a desert, you get thirsty. I'm thirsty now. Like I could drink a glass of water anytime. So 3 days without water, I kind of get it. You know what? I'm not gonna blame them. I'm not. I would probably do the same. Okay, another 3 days later, Exodus 16, verse 2. There too, the whole community of Israel complained about Moses and Aaron. If only the Lord had killed us back in Egypt, they moaned. There we sat around with pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted, but now you have brought us into this wilderness to starve us all to death. Then the Lord said to Moses, look, I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you. Each day, the people can go out, pick up as much food as they need for that day. I'll test them to see whether or not they will follow my instructions. On the sixth day, they will gather food, and when they prepare it, there will be twice as much as usual. You need to eat. So they're thirsty, and now they need to eat. Okay, again, I understand. I'm with you there. But instead of going, God, can you bring us food? They go, God, why haven't you brought us food yet? Their relationship with God is always what he hasn't done, not what he's going to do. Church, like I want us to be a type of people that have an expectation on God that he is going to do it, not that he hasn't done it. There's a key difference in this, and the key difference is your mindset and belief in who God is. I can't remember the person this is equated to, but this is show me how you see God, and I'll show you how you see life. If he's a good and loving father, you're waiting for him to provide. If he's an angry, judicial person, you're waiting for him to catch you. And a lot of this is equated to our earthly fathers and how they treated us. God does this really powerful thing, and he says, you've asked for it, I'll give it. And he gives them food, and he does this really cool thing. He begins to establish what will later be known as the Sabbath. And he says, I want you to get as much as you need for 6 days. Not only that, I'm going to provide for what you need for 7 days of the week. One day, I want you to rest and relax and know that I've given you enough to feed you for the day that you relax. I don't know about you guys, but I often feel like whatever needs to change in life is all on me. And the day that I relax, the day I let my guard down, is the day in which something bad happens. And God is saying, a part of your trust and faith in me is to do. This is wild. This is really wild right here. This is Jesus take the wheel type stuff, right? This is actually what I have found is the most difficult thing for our Western church culture, because there is nothing in our culture that tells you to stop. Nothing at all. Even when you get what you need, you still try to get more. What do you think the Israelites do? When God says, "Hey, on the seventh day, just rest. Just relax. I'll give you, you will know, I will give you a double portion on the day before." That's how you're going to know. Is that good enough? Verse 27. Some of the people, anyway, on the seventh day, but they found no food. The Lord asked Moses, how long will these people refuse to obey my commands and instructions? I've been here. This is where I'm at. If I can be honest with you, I've been doing this church thing for 32 years. And I was 0 to 1 the 1 year doing it. And so I'm so incredibly fascinated with my ability to forget who God is and to remember who I am. There's this thing when you start talking to therapists, counselors, or psychologists that they try to help with your cognitive behavior, which is we often expect other people to do the things that we do to them. So if internally you hear, and hear this not as a guilt thing, you hear we're going to help unhoused homeless people and give them something so that it can relieve a piece of stress in their life. And if our internal response is, well, no one's doing that for me, why would you help them? And let's go one step further. God's not doing this for you. Why would you do that for someone else? And this is the conflict that we're facing. And so, why would you obey his commands if he's not doing the thing you want him to do? So we treat God like like he's having an affair on us. Like, I'm loyal to you. Why are you helping out all these other people? Why are you giving them the affection that I want from you? Why are you cheating and giving someone else a blessing that I don't think they deserve it? You must not be good. Why would I ask you for anything? Why would I trust you? Why would I help? And here's the thing, James. We're lost and we're needy. And I want us to start, this is a little bit of a part 1, next week's message. Next week, we're going to talk about a thing called the 10 Commandments. And you might have heard, again, the VeggieTales version of this, which is all about like being nice to your parents, don't murder anybody, don't steal from Walmart, like that's the surface level. There we go. We're going to go a little bit deeper and see what God is trying to address in the people of Israel. Here's the reality, is the Israelites are in the first step of what we would now call a discipleship journey, where they are realizing how much they are in lack of. So they see it in their physical. I'm missing water. I'm missing food. I'm missing shelter. I'm missing someone to tell me what to do. And God, I want you to understand this. God never wanted to tell you what to do. He wanted you to just love him. And what he's realizing, not that God is like suddenly coming to this, his intention was you to live free with him. This was Garden of Eden. That's why we had to start in Genesis. Now we're getting to this point that God's like, okay, in order for me to start bringing things back, I got to start giving you a way of life. I got to start giving you a pattern of life, something you would recognize all on your own without me having to constantly intervene in your problems. I'm going to show you the power to solve your own problems. And it happens first in your physical, and you'll start seeing it affect your spiritual. What we see here for the Israelites is they're at this point of, what am I doing? What are we doing? What are we as a church doing? Why are we sitting here? Why are you listening to me? Is it because, like, I could talk well? Or is it because there's been something you've heard that goes, there's something here that I've never heard before? There's some level of truth that calls something deep inside of me that tells me that there is another way. I'm in need of something, and I can't really define what that is. Because every time I try to define it in some other thing, I come up lacking. Here, I'm going to end with this. James, will you come up? Actually, worship team, you guys can just all come up here today. This is an interesting story, but we're going to stop here as a cliffhanger. What have we seen in the world so far today? It's from Genesis, from beginning of creation. It's been a couple thousand years. We've seen jealousy. We've seen rage. We've seen murder. We've seen abuse. We've seen demigods and false gods. We've seen tribes become nations. Nations have gone to war. We see slavery followed by miracles, but this only caused doubt and insecurity. Familiar? Would it sound like something? Let's just pick one of those things. Did one of those things ring true? Okay, we're still here. We're still trying to leave Egypt. We're still trying to leave still trying to leave Babel. We're still trying to leave our family betraying us and hurting us. We're still in this. This is what life looks like not following our Creator. And reading Genesis, 2/3 of Exodus, we can see that we're in desperate need of something more. We need something higher than us to guide us. We were given freedom and we messed it up. Then we were given freedom again, and then we messed it up again. And then we were given freedom for a third time. And finally, one person, Moses, says, what if we ask God what he wants? Shocking. We find out that God wants to give you water. As a plan, give you food, and not only that, he wants to give you rest. Oh, I need that. I need that now. God knows his creation's tendency for self-destruction. So next week, we're going to explore the beginning of God's commands on how he intended for us to live the best possible life. But first, we needed to set the stage on why these commands needed to be put in place. Otherwise, they would become rules and religion and not a way of life. This word command, when we start looking at this, there's other translations, other paraphrasings calls these rules of life. And when it used the word, that Hebrew word in rules and commands, it actually kind of more accurately translates to regular. So we hear God wants to put a command on my life because he wants to control me. And God says, I want to give you a way of regular life. I'm the one who made it. I might know how to live a regular life. Just things, Tyler, that you could do all on your own. You didn't need some supernatural intervention. You could just do this by yourself. And because of this, this would be a sign that God is with you. That everyone has the potential to do it, but only you did it. This would be a sign of his people, that they lived a healthy, regular life.